This is TradeFlow News, bringing you relevant news and insights from around the world. TradeFlow News, enabling trade for SMEs and economies worldwide.
These are some of the key topics that we will be looking into in today's program.
First, let's take a look at the overnight headlines which are impacting the commodity markets.
An OPEC Plus ministerial panel is unlikely to recommend any oil output policy changes at a meeting on Wednesday, 5 OPEC Plus sources told Reuters, as oil prices hit their highest this year. The OPEC and allies led by Russia, known as OPEC Plus, will hold an online joint ministerial monitoring committee meeting on April 3 to review the market and members' implementation of output cuts they have already agreed to extend. Oil has rallied this year, underpinned by tighter supply and attacks on Russian energy infrastructure and war in the Middle East. Brent crude reached $89 a barrel on Tuesday, up from $77 at the end of 2023.
Novatek, Russia's largest producer of liquefied natural gas, LNG, has suspended production at its Arctic LNG 2 project due to sanctions and a shortage of gas tankers, two sources familiar with the matter told Reuters on Tuesday. The project had been hoping to start commercial deliveries in the first quarter of this year. But plans were complicated last year when it was included in Western sanctions over Russia's conflict in Ukraine, prompting foreign shareholders to freeze participation and Novatek to issue a force majeure. The decision to suspend converting natural gas to LNG is a blow to Russia's goal to capture a fifth of the global LNG market by 2030 to 2035. It is currently the world's fourth largest LNG producer with annual exports of 32.6 million metric tons.
Moving on to the top news in the energy sector.
Consolidation in China's crowded solar power sector is pushing smaller players out of the market, but excess production capacity, with more on the way, threatens to keep global prices low for years. China accounts for 80% of solar module production capacity after years of subsidies, driving oversupply that has triggered a collapse in global prices and provoked import duties from trading partners to stave off being swamped by low-cost equipment. U.S. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen, set to visit China this week, plans to warn Beijing of the harm done by subsidies for clean energy products including solar panels that she says are flooding global markets and pose a threat to U.S. firms, workers and the global economy.
The number of battery electric vehicles, BEVs, on Norway's roads is on track to overtake petrol cars by the end of this year or in early 2025, in a first for any country, according to Reuters and analysts' calculations. The shift has been driven by generous incentives, afforded in part thanks to Norway's huge oil and gas wealth. Still, analysts think it will take a few more years for BEVs to surpass the number of diesel vehicles in Norway. The Nordic country of 5.5 million people aims to become the first nation to end the sale of new petrol and diesel cars by 2025. 9 out of 10 new cars sold at the start of this year have been BEVs. Next, we have the top news in metal markets. A government-appointed panel has proposed setting up India's first iron ore exchange to determine the domestic sale price of the key steelmaking raw material, according to a document reviewed by Reuters and a source with direct knowledge of the matter. After the Ministry of Mines pointed out that some iron ore miners tried to keep the average sale price artificially low to pay lower royalties to the government, the federal government late last year formed a panel to work out an alternative mechanism to determine domestic iron ore prices. As a long-term measure to solve the issue of transparency in the returns being received, the Ministry of Mines should develop a national iron ore exchange, mandating the buying and selling of iron ore on the online platform, the panel said in its recommendations, according to the document.
Gold prices extended a record run on Wednesday as concerns of inflationary pressures boosted demand for bullion as a hedge, with traders shrugging off doubts over an imminent U.S. interest rate cut and rising Treasury yields. Spot gold was up 0.2% at $2,283.76 per ounce, as of 06:02 GMT, and hit a record high of $2,288.09 earlier in the session. Bullion has hit record highs consecutively since Thursday. U.S. gold futures gained 1% to $2,304.20.
We will now look at the top news in the agricultural sector.
The Indian sugar industry has urged the government to allow exports of 1 million metric tons of the sweetener as unseasonable rainfall in key cane-growing states leads to increased production and supplies. The country is likely to produce 32 million tons of sugar in the current marketing year ending September 30th against local demand of 28.5 million tons, the Indian Sugar and Bioenergy Manufacturers Association, ISMA, said on Tuesday. Higher production is expected to increase stocks in the country to 9.1 million tons by the end of the current marketing year, up from the last year's 5.6 million tons, creating space to allow exports of 1 million ton, according to an association statement.
That is all for today's news on commodity markets. Stay tuned to TradeFlow News as we continue to provide you with more updates. We also invite you to follow us on Twitter at TradeFlow News, which allows you to watch our program on your mobile device or desktop to receive information from there.